welcome everyone to the much anticipated, long overdue Session 6 of Call of Cthulhu Memento Mori Dead Light, which is the second installment of our Memento Mori series. Joining me today are four awesome role players, and at least three of which I consider friends. I'll let you guess which one. But as is tradition, we're just going to go around the table, have everyone introduce themselves, tell us who they're playing, and you know what? If you have one, what's your New Year's resolution? What's your New Year's resolution? If you don't have one, you can just tell Darewolf to get fucked, as is also tradition in all our games. So we're going to go Sanbei, Profess Hex, Matthew, Symbol. Sanbei, take it away.
I'm Jeff, also known as Sunbang. I play Anton Andreevich Orlov, your friendly smuggler of different goods. And a New Year's resolution, not to get stabbed by creepy guys with weird magic knives.
Probably going to fail that one tonight, but I appreciate the effort.
Hey, I am Profess Hex. I play Amara al-Haradi, a Moroccan private investigator whose New Year's resolution is to, weirdly enough, also not get stabbed because she's experienced it and doesn't care for it. It's 0 out of 10, would not recommend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew. I play David Knox, who is a medical student in Arkham and, well, the recipient of an incredibly impressive inheritance. I have no New Year's resolutions. I don't really go for that sort of thing, but...
What's Matthew's New Year's resolution? Not Matthew, David's, excuse me. What's David's New Year's
resolution?
David's?
He resolves not to go insane this year.
You're all going to fail this. None of these are going to succeed. This is bad.
Well, that's the point of New Year's resolutions, right?
That's fair. To fail them very early
exactly.
on.
Let's get that over with.
January.
Exactly.
Done. Then you can wait till next year to make another one. Duncan, Symbol, take it away.
I am Symbol 24. I play Detective Duncan Murphy from Baston. And his New Year's resolution is to not get eaten by floating glowy orbs of faceless doom, or faced doom, or dooms on faces, or the thing he saw that's currently rendering him a bit insane.
And I gotta tell you, these resolutions are just like, you gotta set something like good. Like I'd make a resolution not to eat chocolate for today. Like that's one that you could like go through with and feel proud that you succeeded. I don't know. Hard yikes.
I know I'm gonna fail it, so why set that in the resolution? At least the other one, there's a chance.
That's fair.
Right?
That's fair. All right, and of course I am Darewolf, the game master, the spinner of tales, weaver of webs, something like that. I don't know. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to have a recap. It's been a second. It's been a hot second. It's been about 3 weeks. We had the holidays. I had a computer issue failure where my cooling system for my CPU died and my computer was spiking up to like 100 degrees Celsius. It was about to melt itself, which was real bad. It's since been fixed, so we're back, which is awesome. But I'd like to hear a recap from none other than the good main man, David. Matthew, please, if you would, give us a recap. What happened last session and where do we find ourselves now?
All right. Well, the group found itself traveling up a road, I believe, north of Arkham, and they nearly ran over a young woman who was disheveled. She had some torn clothing. She seemed to be in a state of shock and suffering from some degree of amnesia. We took her up the road in the midst of a massive thunderstorm to a diner where we met various different patrons. A vehicle was found outside the diner. It had sort of spun out, and when it was investigated, we found that the 2 occupants had been killed in bizarre circumstances. Their bodies were almost turned to ash. They crumbled when touched. We investigated the surrounding area. We found some crazed individual inside the nearby garage, and he assaulted the party, babbling about having to feed this creature or having to placate it, having to make a sacrifice to it in order to prevent it from killing us all. And in his assault, he managed to stab Amara, whereupon her arm fell limp and I believe began to kind of necrotize. He was mortally wounded, eventually fell on his own knife and perished, this crazed individual. But before he died, he gave us some indication that clues to the nature of this entity that we then saw outside the garage, some sort of glowing dead light, might have something to do with a nearby cottage that was being rented out by a doomsday preacher and perhaps some of his guests. So as the others regrouped and began to discuss their situation, David, my character, fled off into the rainstorm in order to try to reach that cabin and investigate what clues might be there. I don't know if I missed anything there, but...
Did you miss anything, everyone? I think that was a brilliant, wonderful recap.
Nothing of importance.
You know what? You may have 2 luck back for that wonderful recap, David. You may have 2 luck. Feeling benevolent this evening. Absolutely benevolent. Only to take it away in the next session, or at least the next scene. We're actually going to pick up with David. David, you had run south along this Orahcard Run road. There was as one of the patrons, actually the workers of this little diner, Mary, had mentioned to you, there was a little road that runs off the west side of Orahcard Run. Orahcard Run runs north, south, etc. So on the west-hand side, and you had followed it, it kind of curved north and around. The asphalt, this kind of asphalt was very slick with the rain. You had lost your footing a few times, but managed to press on this ever-present and this just oppressive rain continuing to fall and fall and fall, just soaking you to the bone, your shoes making that horrible squishing noise as you move through. But you finally came to this small little cottage area where there was a little cottage, small little parking garage just behind it. You could see that the garage itself was open. There was a little vehicle sitting inside. It looked as though someone had maybe gone to get into the vehicle, but had changed their mind as the doors open. And you had seen, as you got close to the porch of this cottage, the web cottage that it's called, that the doorway to this cottage was not completely open, as though someone had pushed it in. It did open inward, but it was just ever so slightly ajar. And you could see that there was no light coming from inside, but as you arrived, there was a sort of just a flash of lightning, as it were. And you could just barely make out there appeared to be maybe someone or something lying on the floor just inside of this doorway. You could just see in through that little crack with the door being ajar. What would you like to do, David?
As David is running up that the pathway to the cottage, do I see any tire tracks, or would they have been wiped away by the heavy rainfall?
That's a fantastic question. You don't see any active tire tracks in this moment. You don't see any recent tire tracks, should be the statement I should say. It looks as though that, obviously the road's been driven on. There's some, the asphalt ends and it becomes more of this dirt road right by the cottage itself. It ends maybe 100 feet from the doorway to this cottage. You do see plenty of old, tracks from cars or tire treads. But you don't see anything that looks fresh. It all looks very old and starting to be washed away by this rain, correct?
And what is the condition of the exterior of the building? Is there anything that stands out in terms of external damage, like from a source of heat, fire perhaps, or the like?
What you notice, David, is that the exterior of the building looks neglected, but it is specifically the frame of the door appears to have a kind of, as though someone took a very, very hot source, maybe a blowtorch, a flamethrower, and scorched the outside of the door frame. So you can see this kind of blackened wood that, like little spider webs, kind of like spider webs out from the door frame, this kind of blackened looking wood.
Right then. Withdrawing a medium knife from, I guess, like a holster inside of his jacket, he's going to sort of choke up on that and slowly push the door open, in the most cautious way possible, holding back to see if anything sort of moves inside.
Mm-hmm. So you're pushing the door handle in because the door opens inward, or what are you planning to do? Okay.
I'm just sort of like
You
slowly
push
opening the door
the
cautiously.
doorway.
Yeah.
You hear that that creaking noise. It's groaning from being moist. The door is slightly swollen from the rain. It's a wooden door. It's kind of started to swell, and as it pushes in on the hinges, you hear this creaking, and as you push it in, you feel some resistance, as though it hits something. Imagine that you've started to push the door in. You've opened it about a foot, and you open it another 6 inches, and it hits something. And you can feel resistance, like you're pushing, the top of the door pushes in, but the bottom hits something, stopping you. But you don't hear anything.
Is it open sufficiently for me to slide through?
Yes, you absolutely could, David.
Oh, okay. Then that is what I will do.
Okay. You slip inside. Now you're carrying a flashlight, or what do you have on you, David?
I think I have a flashlight and a knife out.
As you slip into the entranceway, there is a hallway. To the right, there is a door. And then just beyond it, there's another door. So there appears to be 2 rooms to the right. As you move further down the hallway and turn left, you can just barely make out there appears to be several other doorways down that way. But just behind the door, you find that there is an overturned chair that the door had hit. It looks as though at one point it may have been jammed up underneath the handle of the door, the doorknob, but had fallen over at some point.
All right. Then I'll just take a look at the door right to my right, you said.
So that door is currently closed, but you can see that as you shine your light on it, that there are some strange symbols that have been carved into the door. In fact, they remind you, David, of some of the symbols that you had seen on the farmhouse several weeks back during your first encounter with these otherworldly forces. They're not the same, but they remind you of them. And you can see that it looks like, based on your analysis of them, that they sort of appear to be half finished. Is your best, if you'd like to get more information, you could make a check to investigate it, but that's up to you how you'd like to proceed.
I think I would spend about 60 seconds maybe looking at those symbols, withdrawing maybe a piece of paper and trying to get at least a quick sketch of them.
Okay.
And then, although it's against my better judgment, I will try to enter that room.
So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to give me just a basic intelligence check, if you would. Okay. You manage to do a quick scribbling of them, but you don't garner any additional information. It doesn't seem like David's very focused on these symbols. He's taking a quick sketch just to have them, but it's not entirely taking too much time. He said 60 seconds. But as you grab the door handle to this door, you notice that the handle itself is cold as ice. In fact, you touch it and it almost feels like it burns for a moment. It's so cold. The feeling between hot and cold can be very similar depending on, how intense it is. It almost feels as though it's burning, but as you pull back and you actually shine your flashlight on that door handle, you notice that the handle itself it's almost steaming from the heat of your hand, as though you grabbed ice. You could see a little bit of like steam coming off because the warm hand touched it, but it's almost coated in a thin layer of ice.
Okay, I'm not going to open that door. I am just going to move on. I'm going to move on to that next door, shine my flashlight in if it's open.
That doorway is open. What you see inside is a kitchen and dining room. So it just looks to be, there's a couple of bowls on the table, as though someone had maybe been eating but left their bowl there. There's some half-eaten, maybe some cereal. You actually smell what smells like some sour milk, as though it's been sitting out for too long. It's not completely curdled. It's not gone completely bad, but it's just starting to turn. But other than that, just a kitchen with a big table and a little cast iron stove. That's all.
I guess I'll just shine the flashlight around the room for a moment. No signs of a struggle or any kind of like shock or surprise. They left in a hurry, but no violence.
No violence. No.
Then I guess I'll turn down that left hallway.
You turn to the left hallway. You have an option to go into a room on your left, right, or there's further doors. So there's 2 doors on either side. There's 2 on the left and 2 on the right. How would you like to proceed?
I'll take a peek in the room closest to my right.
Just to your right. So as you go for the handle, you notice that this room's door is actually open. You can actually shine your light right into it. And it appears to be a kind of study of sorts. You shine it around. You see that there is a table off. As you're staring into the room, you see this table, little desk, and a chair off to the right-hand side. And there are just papers strewn about it. As you shine your light up the wall, you see that there is just a smattering, as though someone was trying to, with red lines connecting this and that. It's like it's all connected kind of thing. It looks just like that. You can see all these lines, and you see newspaper clippings of, this person killed their wife, or this person committed suicide, or this person is a murderer. It's like all of these horrible, horrible acts. And written across it, and it kind of red, either ink or maybe it's chalk or something, but written across it is just a big S, an I, and an N. Just a big sin, just written across it. And this bright red, like crayon or marker of some sort, written across all of these articles.
And staring at that, he's just going to shake his head and grumble to himself about the follies of this religious nonsense and what it has driven these poor people to, this kind of insanity. You said that there are papers on the floor.
There's papers strewn across the floor and the desk, but the most interesting thing is that you notice there is a leather-bound journal sitting on top of the papers. It appears to be in significantly better condition and significantly better care and everything else inside of this room. Everything else is strewn, thrown about, as though the person that placed these materials up, these papers, these cutouts, etc., was angry at them. It was done in sort of haste, with a kind of wrathfulness. But this journal, it's actually as though it's Moses parting the Red Sea. All the paperwork is almost kind of like a halo around this journal set right in the center of this desk.
Then, just stepping slightly gingerly across the floor, dodging some of those papers or walking through those papers, he's going to go towards that desk and pluck up the journal and give it a quick flip through to see what stands out.
Excellent. 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 This journal contains what some might consider the ravings of the presumed late, Dr. Webb. To flip through this journal, you read about this man who truly believed that the world was corrupt, truly believed that sin was ever present. It was like a sickness in society, in humanity itself. I'm going to give you access to a couple of handouts. You're going to have a chance to read these handouts as you see fit. I'm going to start with handout 1A. And if you can't read the text of the picture, it's typed out just below that. But David, if you would read that for everyone's benefit.
Of course. So, reading from this page of the journal, the useful, if unorthodox resident of the casket, our sin-eater, is, as far as I can ascertain, no creature currently known to science. Where it came from, and when, I do not know, nor did my predecessor from whom I inherited it, although it is undoubtedly many centuries old, if not more. Its uses have been many over the years, although it has predominantly been employed to rid certain local socially conscious families of unwanted offspring, be they the results of centuries of inbreeding, unfortunate accidents, or other unwholesome activities. The legality of the creature's use is debatable. Its efficacy is not. Even in such cases where death by other means proved intractable, My conscience in this matter, and that of those who came before me, is clear, for many of the children would never have survived, regardless, given their deformities, as other less obvious abnormalities. As for the rest, the Lord does not suffer such blasphemies to live.
Continue to flip through and you come across another passage.
This second passage. As in all things, safety first. Should the sin eater escape its confines, why this sounds relevant, then the only way to recall it is to provide it with a suitably prepared patient, such that it becomes satisfied and lethargic and willingly returns to its coffer. Inscribe the spiral mark shown in blood, preferably the patient's, but not essential, on the patient's forehead. The patient does not need to be a child, but it must be human and naturally alive at the point of contact. Experiments of animals and corpses carried out by my antecedents were apparently most unsatisfactory. If the patient is conscious, then they will need to be suitably restrained. Once all preparations are complete, perform the recitation as phonetically transcribed below and permit the sin eater to perform its duties, after which it will return to its casket. Once it is within, close the lid and seal it immediately with a liberal application of the aromatic wax ointment.
We find next page.
So on this page displayed the symbol, presumably, that has to be drawn in blood on the sacrificial victim. Mm-hmm. There is a phonetic transcription of, I assume, the ritual that has to take place. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. We'll save that for our desperate struggle at the end of the session. But it then says, I was taught the sin eater can be summoned and directed to seek out a person at some distance, if the correct phraseology is used, this being subtly different to the procedure previously noted, requiring modification to the symbol pattern and phrasing. I detailed this below, but warn, and the rest of the page is cut off.
The bottom part is ripped out and missing, fortunately. Ripped out and missing. And the final page that you find are specific dates and numbers associated with them, and letters associated with them. What they mean is a mystery. It is a mystery. But, yeah. David, you take a couple of minutes to flip through this. You find these pages, these passages. What would you like to do?
Pocketing the journal, he is going to start frantically looking for anything that looks like it might contain wax or this aromatic ointment. Mm-hmm. He's going to toss this room quite quickly and then move on to the next rightmost room.
Okay. You move to the next rightmost room. You continue on to the next room, You find what was likely Amelia Webb's, his granddaughter's room. You find some women's clothing and things, but you don't find anything inside there. The last room, and the only room you haven't explored, is the room with the frozen doorknob, fortunately.
Lovely. He is going to take off his sort of outer coat and wrap it quite thickly around his hand, mm-hmm. and then use that to very quickly open the door and force it.
As you open the door and force it open, the inside of this room has this kind of white mist, that kind of, when it's so cold that the air itself, any moisture in the air freezes. And there's this kind of crackling noise as you open the door and you struggle and you see that the carpet that was in this room has been frozen solid. You're actually scraping ice. Across the way, David, you see two bodies lying on the floor. One of them appears to be a man, a preacher. He's dressed, he has a kind of, wearing all black. He's got what looks to be a Bible in his right hand. You can see the big golden cross on it. It's slightly covered in ice, but he's holding it out as though he fell and he was trying to maybe bring it up as a weapon or a club. And to his right, as you're staring into the room, you see another body that is grasped tightly as though they were clinging onto it, holding it tightly to themselves, a large cylindrical tube with very similar writing to what you saw on the outside of this door.
And I guess stepping gingerly into that rime of frost that's covering the floor, he is going to move towards that body that's grasping onto the cylindrical tube.
Mm-hmm.
As I look at it, can I ascertain the cause of death? Is he also sort of ashen like one of those corpses we encountered earlier?
He is not. He appears to have just been frozen solid in place.
I suppose I'd like to toss the body. Is there any identification on him? Does he have anything in terms of his...
Throw it right out the window, as it were. I get what you mean.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, okay. I'd like to search the body's pockets, if possible.
You reach down, and you begin you start to maybe try to search the body. It's very frozen, so I mean, grabbing onto the jacket, it's like, you have to like break the ice off. You go to break the ice, and as you break the ice, you see the chest rise and then fall as though the person was trying to take a breath. As you look down and then up the body's chest to the eyes, you see, although it's coated in ice, you see both eyes of this male's eyes blink. Roll me a sanity check.
Oh, lovely.
Fantastic. You're okay. And with that, we're actually going to pivot over. I think it's a great time to pivot back to the Orchard Run itself. I'd like to pick up with Duncan. Duncan, you moved outside just in front of the garage, this little mechanic shop. You saw this horrible white floating skull. It was trying to make its way inside of the building. You had watched it earlier lift Teddy, the old man, into the air and seemed to drain him of all life. There were these tendrils of blood and ichor. It was as he was draining him completely. But as soon as the blade had connected with Billy, unbeknownst to you at the time, the creature had seemed to kind of shrink and then moved off back into the woods, disappearing from sight. I'm curious, Detective Duncan, what'd you do in this moment?
First reaction would have been to go see if my partners are okay. So I go inside, check on Amara and...
Inside, we have Amara lumped against the wall next to the door. We have Duncan, who is still looking over the remains of Billy, who was the mechanic. Gentlemen, lady, take the scene.
That looks pleasant.
Anton is still over the dude who has the knife, trying not to touch it, but and then looks over and sees Amara over on the wall and kicks the knife away from the dead body and moves over to Amara to try to help out.
As you kick the knife away from the dead body, you watch as it kind of spins like a hockey puck almost, like over the floor, makes a clattering noise. As it strikes the far back wall that blocks off the little water closet, the little toilet just around the corner, you watch as the hilt, you see that the little knob, the little ball, the edge of the hilt, seems to rattle, unscrews, and then a small little vial of something blinks out onto the floor. It appears to be maybe a little container of wax, interestingly enough.
I walk over to the knife. I take my shirt down, covering my hand. Pick up the knife by the hilt. Little vial, you say, of wax. I put the vial in my pocket and put the pommel back on the knife. And this thing is full of tricks. Better not just leave lying around. I take it with me to go check on Amara.
You see that Duncan has just returned inside. Amara is still grimacing, leaning against the wall. Please continue.
I take my scarf and fasten a sling that at least the arm is not flopping about, and put it around Amara.
Merci.
Is the knife poisoned? And is that what caused the wound?
I don't know if it would be accurate to call it poison. Something is. Well, it's like the people that we saw in the truck. Some kind of
Super leeching of
yes, a taking of
ah.
energy, moisture. I'm not sure.
Where's big guy? Where's David? Where'd he go?
When Amara was hurt, he ran out the door. I think he said something about the cabin. I don't really know what cabin he's talking about.
The owners, they say there's a cabin down a little path for like to rent. A doctor was living there right now.
I don't think now that it's been too long. He shouldn't have by himself. He should have returned by now. I'm concerned.
Okay.
Now, we killed the one crazy man here. He seemed to maybe control the wandering light.
I don't think anything on this earth controls that in any meaningful way.
He said he had to feed. I don't know if you heard it. He had to feed the light, and then when
Yeah, I see that.
the knife stabbed him, it sated the light and it went away
But for how long?
until it gets hungry again.
How hungry is it? Regardless, I don't think David should be out there
I agree.
alone.
Can you make it?
Yes, it's this may shock you, but it really, really fucking hurts.
Does this mean I can drive your car?
No.
You can
Duncan-
drive. You can
Duncan
drive
is-
stick.
Duncan is driving the car.
I am professional driver.
Yes. Well, I do not have the best insurance for that vehicle, so I'm not willing to put that in your hands, as capable as though they may be.
We can go in my truck.
So I can rattle around with your lack of shocks.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Can we just go?
Let's take you to the car, and I'll go to the truck, and I'll pull out the. Did David take the shotgun? Or did he
Nope.
leave it in the truck? I'll go
Shotgun's
grab the
there.
shotgun out of the truck, and we'll take that with us.
Good idea.
And David left the shotgun, so I don't think he is armed.
Wolf, did Amara's pistol get knocked to the ground or
Yeah, it'd just be at her
anything
feet.
like that?
Mhm.
Okay, then I would make sure to, with my other hand,
Mhm.
make sure it's there.
It's still there. Got it.
Yeah, I'd grab it, and I think we'd all pile into the car and speed towards the cabin.
Yes. Beautiful. As you guys speed off towards the cabin, you can see the man, this kind of burly, mountain-looking man, Jake Burns. He has just stepped out of the door of the diner. He sees you all pile into the car and speed off away from this, from the location with a kind of confused look on his face, his eyes wide, filled with fear and, well, just plainly put, confusion, as it were. You see in his right hand he still has a gun. You can just barely make out that his hand is trembling. But you all very quickly make your way over. And David, you have just, opened. You just opened this door. You've moved in when you hear the sound of a vehicle from outside and the telltale sound of brakes and this kind of scraping of a car kind of losing its traction for just a moment and then coming to a stop outside. In fact, into the room that you're in, you see light illuminate the room from the headlights of a vehicle.
Do I see the headlights of two vehicles, or is
Just
it just
one vehicle. Just the one vehicle.
Okay. David is actually going to be really rather hyperfixated on the person who seems to still be conscious. Can I make any kind of assessment of his condition? Is it safe to move him?
You're not sure.
He's going to very quickly move over to presumably Dr. Webb. Is he also alive and conscious, or is he actually dead?
You notice that Dr. Webb, as you get close to him, has what appears to be a gunshot wound to his chest.
And glancing around the room, do I see any discarded firearms?
You do. You do. There is a firearm to the back wall, actually just behind the frozen man who is clutching this large cylindrical tube.
Then I guess returning to him, I'm going to try to move him out of the room as gingerly as possible, hoping that his body doesn't just crack apart.
Ah, so you can hope. As you go to pick him up, I'll have you make a strength check. He's kind of frozen to the floor. You go to lift. You go to grab his left leg. You pull, get some resistance, give it just a little tug, not too much, and you feel it give way. And as you pull, you watch as you pull the man's leg clean off. It cracks, breaking. You can see a bit of blood, but it's mostly frozen. It's kind of oozing, and you hear this muffled cry of pain. Give me a sanity check, please.
Okay.
You lose not too much sanity, but a little bit. You lose 1 sanity in that moment. And the man is and you can see his body just ever so slightly shaking beneath this like ice cocoon, and the container that he has is kind of shaking as well, but it appears the container itself is shaking separately from him. But he's struggling, and you can see his muscle, and you can see sinew in the bone. It's gross. Yeah. Just rip this man's leg off, David.
How copiously is it bleeding? Because I assume either...
Not too bad. It's a very slow bleed.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything I can do for this poor man.
Put him out of his misery.
You could remove his other leg.
I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. David is actually just going to he's going to stab him in the head.
Just gonna stab him in the head.
Yeah.
Just straight up stab this man in the head. Give me a sanity check again, please, David.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take 5 sanity damage as you take your knife, you aim it, you go to plunge once, you miss, nicking the side. The man is still screaming. His eyes are frantically looking left and right as he realizes what you're about to do. You bring the dagger back up, and you hear this kind of whisper. This kind of... as though someone is talking to you in this moment. And you hear this ha-ha, ha-ah, 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 just over and over. This ha-ah, ha-ah. And it feels like someone or something is urging you on to do it. Like they want you to kill this man.
I will also say with 5 sanity loss, that would be temporary insanity, I think.
Yeah.
So, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, sounds great.
Thank you, mysterious, bizarre voice. I will.
Murdering this man in cold blood after ripping his leg off is a fantastic idea. David, you are filled with this kind of... you are helping this man. You are doing something good. In fact, you realize that this man's heart is filled with sin. You can see the firearm, you can see the gun lying on the ground across the way. He murdered a preacher in cold blood. To let him live, he must suffer for a moment. He must suffer for just a few moments. So you go to plunge the knife and you wait, you almost savor this man's pleas, these cries. His lips actually start to break it, and you can just barely make out, "Plea, plea, plea, plea." But it doesn't matter. His cries will be answered by the Lord. The Lord will be his final judge. Bring the blade up. Plunge it down straight, not into his head, but into his neck. Blood starts to pool out from the wound. This kind of red, almost slushy-like blood. The man's eyes dart left and right and left and right. There is a gurgle. Blood spills forth from his mouth, dribbling down onto his chest. He continues to try to cry, but he can't. He can't. And it is in this moment that Amara, Anton, and Duncan enter into the building, see the open, frosty room, and see David crouched over a man holding a knife plunged into his neck.
David, what are you doing? I rush.
I'm healing the world. The world is so sick. It's all so sick.
I rush towards him and tackle him off the body.
Is the knife still in David's hand?
Oh, well, unless it gets knocked out of his hand, yes, because he's going to fight back.
Good. Great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy about this.
This is a great moment.
So do we need to... Is that going to be an opposed thing, or what's going on?
Well, I'm thinking we're going to have an opposed check here. We could use, I believe, brawling is a skill, if I remember correctly. It's been a hot second to run that. Yeah, so it'd be an opposed brawling check is what we'd go with. Pretty good, David Knox.
Now he starts rolling good.
That's really good. You both got a hard success, but David rolled a little lower. So Duncan, you rush forward. Go ahead, David, please.
I think rules as written, because I asked to fight back.
Yeah.
He has the advantage, which means he would actually win that.
That is true. You're right. That's absolutely correct. Thank you for the correction. Yes, so because you tied, but he initiated, he actually wins. So you rush forward, Duncan. David, you see this man rushing towards you, and in your eye, you don't see a man. You see someone who is also corrupt. And in your eye, you see this symbol, the same symbol that earlier that you read, and you see it kind of start to be carved into his forehead. You can start to see this trickle of blood start to appear. And you look down at your dagger that's still covered in blood, and you can see it trickling. You can almost feel this hunger from the dagger for this man's skull. You bring it up, but Duncan, you are on top of him and you wrestle him to the ground. David, your hand strikes the floor, this icy floor. You both lose your footing as you're running across this sheet of ice, and you're on the floor. Now you're struggling, but the knife has been knocked from your hands, David.
He is just sort of gesticulating frantically. He is frothing at the mouth, screaming obscenities and irrationalities out at you about purging this world, curing this world.
The fuck, David? What are you talking about? I tried to
Anton,
wrestle him.
Amara, what are you guys doing?
A little bit. Go
I
ahead.
think we're both in a little bit of shock, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because David's like the most rational of anybody, and seeing him lose it.
I think Amara has instinctively drawn her gun. And I think as Duncan and the other one are
David.
yeah, as they are, well, I don't know if it's David anymore. As they are wrestling about, I think she would kind of briskly move over there, and with basically pistol whip David, like as delicately as possible. You know what I mean? Like making sure it's just a clean hit to like a temple or the back of the
brawling
head
check
to knock him out.
We have brawling check. Let's see what happens.
Brawling it is. Brawling is bad for me.
You go to strike him,
I
but
have
they
one
are
harm.
tussling way too bad, and you cannot get a good hit in there. You cannot get a good hit in there. Anton, are you doing anything?
I see what she's done. I see her clearly miss. I walk over. I have the shotgun in my hand, not round, not loaded, but makes a good club, and I'll use it upside David's head.
Brawling. Let's see what happens. Or melee. I suppose melee would work.
I have brawl.
Brawl. Let's go brawl. I like that. Oh!
Wow.
Oh, David! So Anton walks over. Duncan's struggling. Amara tried to pistol whip him. They're all together. You're kind of still all losing your footing. There's this man still bleeding out and gurgling as blood gushes forth from his neck. More blood than should probably be inside a man, but it's still coming. In fact, it's starting to coat the room, and seems to be like moving out as though it's alive. That's weird. Probably something to take note of. But you come over and you just wham! David, you see the sin in Duncan's face and his soul. Then you see blackness, darkness, and that's it. You are knocked out. Gentlemen, lady.
For the love of God, the hell is wrong with this boy?
I don't know. This is not David. You don't know him. He is very rational. He is very calm, very facts.
Well, can you help me get this thing off of me?
And roll David over, and I will go find something in there to tie his hand. You have handcuffs. You're a policeman, no? Yeah. So do your stuff to his.
He's handcuffed behind his back. Well, can you? What is with? Why? What's with the blood? Like,
Blood's still pooling out the man's neck.
Don't understand. It's I've seen people frozen on these steps in the Civil War. They don't bleed.
Let's just get out of here, okay? Let's move to a room that is not being rapidly filled with fluid.
And we'll move to start dragging David out as well.
in the last minute, like I tried to take the tube from
The guy?
hands of the guy.
You know what? The warm blood is melted enough that you can get the tube out. Kind of looks like almost like a little like casket tube. It's weird. Like kind of shaped like that box that you got during from the late friend of yours. Got some weird symbols carved into it. I don't know, something to take note of.
Whatever. I've never seen this before, so whatever.
Fine, yeah.
Seems important. And we drag David out. Anton and I.
You drag him out. There are several rooms you can go into. In fact, there's a big table in the dining room, the kitchen area. If you want to go into, you could put him on.
I mean, that's a good place as any.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so you guys move into that room. The blood of the man, as you all exit out, seems to staunch itself. It stops, but there is a very large circle of blood that is covering this room, and you notice that. Did you leave your lights on, Amara, or would you have turned them off when you came inside?
Well, I wasn't driving, so
Okay.
it would have been
I left
whoever's.
them on for lighting for sure.
Bottom up on. Okay. The lights flicker, Duncan. See them flicker once, twice, then they go out. But down the road that you traverse to get to this cabin, you can just barely make out a kind of faint, soft, white glow. This kind of orb that is slowly moving its
It's
way
coming
down
back.
the road towards you again.
I try to wake up David. Is there any? Give me some water. Is there any water? For a pitcher of water.
I'll try to make myself useful. Find something.
You find some water. Yep.
Yeah. So
Oh,
hand it over to Duncan.
splash on David.
Mm-hmm.
Slap, slap, slap. Wake up. Come on, you
David,
giant ogre. Wake up.
You have been having some, being knocked out, being unconscious. You've been having these really strange visions for the last couple of minutes here. You've been seeing a number of what appears to be nurseries, like medical, like hospital nurseries. And you've been watching these rows of children alive, screaming baby, and turns translucent white, just like the bodies you've seen. Then another, then another, then another, and it just goes down the row, then goes again. And in your dreams, you were kind of looking down upon these infants, and you come to realize that you are in this vision. You are this translucent creature, this dead light, this moment. And then you feel this kind of cold water on your face. You feel the hard wood of the table. And you come to, feeling not quite as insane as you did before, but still very shaken.
And that first instinct is to try to just jerk up out of the chair. And he finds his arms tied or handcuffed behind his back, struggling immediately, looking around frantically at the rest of the party.
Whoa. Calm down. Come on, big boy.
What are you doing to me?
You're the one that's going off ape shit on. You plunged the knife into a guy's throat. And look, are you okay? Are you? What's going on?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You were saying weird things, and you tried to come at Duncan with knife.
Well, to be fair, Duncan did tackle you, so I don't hold it against him, and neither should you. You were spouting some nonsense, David. Something about cleansing or healing the world.
That's what this is. And he sort of like sticks out his chest. A journal in my pocket.
While you're putting your chest out, I uncuff you. To me, you're clearly not the same insane as you were. So,
and as he brings his hands round before him, he just sort of flexes them. They're shaking subtly.
Look, we don't have a lot of time. I think it's coming here. The glowy ball of death.
It's all in the journal. You can just look at it there. How to stop it.
Anton, do you still have the dagger?
Yeah, I still have dagger. And I have the little vial of some type of ointment inside.
God, this guy is insane.
That came out of the pommel. I have that too.
The wax. Do we have ointment? Wax? What?
Wax?
The vial? Is that what this is? It came out
Yes.
of the knife.
No, I showed to you. Yeah, this is what come out of knife. It's not much.
Okay, and I'm guessing the tube is the cask. But someone needs to die. Someone. Damn it.
Oh, the frozen guy maybe.
It's a bit too late for the frozen guy now.
We have two of them, don't we?
No, I checked. Dr. Webb, I'm afraid, is quite dead. There's only one choice, of course. If it's coming.
What do you mean there's only one choice? Of course there's only one choice.
I'm glad we agree. From what we've seen, I'll need to be restrained.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Of course. I killed him. He was I tortured him and then I killed him.
David, you were under some kind of influence. You did not know what you were doing. Life leaves this plane every second. You cannot afford to be so precious about it. Trust me about that.
It's pure pragmatism. If that thing is out there, someone needs to die.
No. That way madness lies, and you know it.
Well, I seem to have trod that path already.
No.
While they're arguing, I'm more to the side so they're not looking at what I'm doing, and I've taken out my pocket knife, and then yeah.
Just taking out your pocket knife. All right, fair enough. You all start to hear this voice. You hear this voice.
It's gonna hurt.
Gotlika, Lika, and you can feel this kind of emptiness in your stomachs, as though you haven't eaten in days. You can feel this white, translucent, glowing light bulb thing, this dead light, as it's come to be called, and feel its hunger. You watch as this translucent light moves around, as though someone's taking a flashlight, shining it across the window to the kitchen, then moves around. And you can tell that this thing is circling this building, circling this cabin like a hungry wolf. And every so often you can feel the building itself kind of shake a little bit, as though the creature is materializing a kind of physical form and shaking, checking the building for weaknesses, for potential entrances. Over in the corner, we watch as Duncan is carving a symbol into his forehead. Duncan, I'm going to need you to roll me a sanity check, please.
Do that. I can do that.
That's pretty messed up. Welcome to Call of Cthulhu, everybody. Alright, you take 3 sanity damage, which is terrible, and you also take...
Seems low.
You also take 1 damage for carving a symbol into your forehead. Everyone's been distracted. Everyone's been distracted, not watching. And Duncan, there is a little mirror, a little shiny. Maybe it's it's a metal fridge. It was kind of it was a little shiny, reflective, as it were. You were able to gingerly carve this symbol into your forehead. And as David is pleading, that obviously has to be him, etc. Duncan, you've completed carving this symbol into your forehead.
I turn around, pass the journal, shove it into David's hands. It's like, you're the one that's gonna have to read this. And I exit the kitchen and close the door and slam it and try to brace it so they can't open it right away.
What the fuck are you doing?
If someone needs to die, it's gonna be me, baby.
You selfish prick.
David's tossing the journal onto the ground, and he is going to throw himself at the door to try to break it down or to get past whatever barrier he's erected beyond it.
I need you both to give me strength checks.
Oh, wow.
David, you throw yourself against the door. You hear this kerplump. The door does not budge. Duncan, you have barricaded yourself. You are acting as a barrier to this door, to this room, to the kitchen. There is no way for them to get out. There's only the one entrance. So there is a window that they could escape through if they want to. But Duncan, you are standing in the entry hallway, just beyond the doorway. And at the doorway, you see a white, floating, glowing skull. This kind of... skull is the wrong term. It looks as though it is a zombie-like head. There are pop marks. Its skin is kind of melting and writhing, and you can see these little like worms seem to be crawling under the skin. Its mouth is agape wide, and you can hear these words over and over. Gotlika, 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 Gotlika. And you can see in its sockets, the eye sockets, you can see kind of dark, endless void. It wants to consume you, Duncan. It is like a beast slowly creeping up on its prey.
Come on, David, read the thing, make it go away. And I start running towards the back of where I'm assuming is at least one of the main rooms.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely. David, you feel the door give way, actually. You feel the door give way. You can actually open the door. And as you slowly push open the door, David, you can see the white translucent light has entered into the building proper, and it is stalking Duncan, who has run to the back. He's run towards the bathroom at the end of the long hallway, and he has positioned himself inside that door where you can still see just ever so slightly your flashlight in your hand. You can see the trickle of blood from the symbol that has been carved into his forehead. The creature is in between you and him, but you can just barely make him out past the light.
I mean, he's unarmed, so yeah. He's going to scramble over and grab the book that he tossed down. And flipping open the journal to that page, he's going to call over to Anton and Amara, jamming his finger onto the page right above the phonetic transcription of the chant. Help me!
No, how?
Read this.
Hey, English is not good.
It's not even English. And then he's going to grab a chair from that table and basically storm out, hurling it at the dead light.
All right. Interesting choice.
And
Very interesting choice.
And here
Anton will
comes
start
David
reading.
Knox with a steel chair. Oh my
off
God.
the top row.
Wow.
it's a
Well,
steel chair from nowhere.
here's
Oh,
where we're
God.
at. Here's where we're at. A couple things are going to happen. David, you chuck this chair at the dead light. We're going to have you make an attack roll, which would be throw, I believe.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, throw.
I would say so.
Give me a throw. The chair goes flying down the hallway, clatters against a wall, and appears to strike some of the white glowy bits of this dead light, but the light itself doesn't seem to notice at all. Amara, what are you doing?
I think at this point, I would have barreled into the room and begun firing at the dead light as a means of trying to draw it away from
David
everybody else.
pressed on, threw the chair at the dead light. It ricocheted off the wall. From around him, you shove him out of the way, Amara, drawing your firearm, getting a beat on it, and unload your weapon. Go ahead and give me a shoot. Or guns. Shoot, guns.
Firearms.
Firearms, that's the one,
Handgun.
yes.
Handgun would be in this
Handgun,
particular.
yeah, handgun.
Yep,
Fire
I have-
once,
I have one arm.
twice, and the bullets just go through it. However, at the sound, the creature turns to face you, Amara, and sees you and David standing kind of in the doorway together. And you watch as these long white tendril-like whips lash out towards you. They lash out in your direction. And,
I mean, I'd like to dodge.
yeah, let's have you make some dodge checks, please.
Multiple?
Just one. Each of you can make one.
Good.
David would like to dodge into the path of that beam,
All right.
pushing her out of the way.
All right, that's fair.
There's my success. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
wow!
Of course it is.
But
Amara.
but
Yes, go ahead, Anton.
to help, when prior to Amara starting to shoot,
Mhm.
that's when I would have started to read. As soon as David handed me that
This is
document,
wild.
I would have been reading.
Yeah. Well, this is Cthulhu. Here we are. So, here's where we're at. We're probably going to see some losses here today. Just going to be honest. But that's all right. It's part of the Cthulhu experience. We watch as this white tendril whips out like a kind of spiked flagella, as it were. It's flying towards Amara. David shoves her out of the way. The flagella strikes David in the chest. Instantaneously, David, you are filled with a sense of horror. And let me just roll a d100 here really quick. Oh yeah, it hit. You take a whopping 10 points of damage. 10 points of damage. As it strikes you, it then, this tendril kind of latches into you. You can feel it like this spiked prong, and you can feel it start to drain your life from you, David. You are filled with visions of every fear, every bit of anxiety that you've ever experienced. It is like all of your veins, all of your neurons, all of your what is it called? Why am I having a friggin' moment here?
Nervous system?
Nervous system is on fire. Thank you, Amara. It's like your nervous system is on fire. Everything is on fire, and you can just feel this kind of pulse. Like it's beating, like it's like matching the heartbeat. Every time your heart beats, it seems to drain something from you. I have to roll another d100 here. But you somehow manage to resist in this moment. You're resisting being drained somehow through sheer will. Anton, in the chant, please.
So
My breathing is very bad. Ia Hage Makshmene Sak Mishiv Kayase
damn it,
Winston Knuckle
David!
Wishes Ni
What did you
Saj
do?
Nema. I tried reading what the thing say.
Continue reading. I'm just, god damn it.
I continue on and on. I Hage Makshmene
Another
Sak
tendril
Mishiv
comes flying.
Kesa Winston
Comes flying
Nakon, which
towards
is,
Anton. But
Saj
strikes the
Nema.
wall. Not Anton. Comes flying towards Duncan, but strikes the wall next to Duncan. Doesn't hit him.
That's right. Come after me, you big oaf. You stupid thing.
Anton, continue.
I Hej Makshmene Sak Mejiv Kai Kayasi Winson Nakan Metishnej Saj Nema.
The creature lets out a horrific shriek. The tendril that struck David recoils, pulls back out of his chest. David, you feel weak, but you're still standing. Amara, you still have the gun. The creature rushes towards Duncan, and it actually envelops him.
Come on, you stupid thing.
You hear Duncan screaming, "Come on, you stupid thing." And you watch as Duncan is lifted up into the air. Tendrils, one into his leg, one into his other leg, two into his chest, two go through his eyes. He's continuing to scream. His eyes burst out. You can see blood start to pool out of his eyes and pool into this creature. You watch as Duncan starts to shrink and shrink and shrink and turns completely translucent, completely white, excuse me. The creature starts to shrink and shrink and shrink. The box that is on, I don't know who's holding the box, but the box that is laying on the table starts to rattle, flips open, and you watch as this shrinking creature gets smaller and smaller and seems to get pulled back towards this box, where like a little light bulb, it sets inside of it. The box snaps shut. Down the hallway, you see Duncan's body sitting there in a pile, a little heap, completely ensanguinated. Get everyone to give me sanity checks, please. And Duncan's like, "Yeah, fuck these guys."
Motherfucker, yeah.
David Knox somehow succeeds. Ooh, I saw Amara fail. That makes sense. Take 4 sanity damage. You've just watched a good friend of yours sacrifice themselves for you. The box starts to rattle again. Still closed, but
David screams towards Anton, "Seal it with the wax! The wax!"
Dot, and I pull the vial out of my pocket and start to
The wax is
Drip it and guide it.
surprisingly malleable. It's not like wax where you'd have to heat it. It's kind of like a beeswax kind of thing where you can like just take it out and you start to spread it along just the edge, that little edge where the base and the lid connects. And you spread it on, and you can see this kind of glowing blue almost energy as you spread it across. It's as though it's sealing it. You watch as the wax turns from this kind of greenish yellow color to pitch black, as though it's kind of like a tar. You quickly spread it around the outside of this box, and the box stops shaking, sits there. There's another crash of thunder. You hear the rain outside starting to abate, starting to subside. Down the hallway, the body of Duncan lies lifeless. Amara's arm feels... You feel a tingle, Amara, in your fingertips. As you look down at your arm, you can see just a bit of color. Just a bit of color on your pointer finger start to return. You can feel it ever so slightly, but it's a very slow, somewhat painful process.
and Anton will step outside front door and immediately throw up.
There.
That's the right response.
David just has his head in his hands.
I think Amara would get up, stagger towards Duncan's body, and unload the rest of her clip into his forehead.
Wow. All right.
Good thinking.
It's fair.
In a kind of in a calculated but also executed in a calculated way, executed in a panicked way, or a stressed, like kind of like screaming sort of way. Unloads the clip.
Fire into his skull. The first bullet turns it to dust. It just shatters into 1,000 pieces, and the rest of his body along with it. The rest of your clip just goes into the wooden floor, splinters ricocheting up out of the floor. You all hear this bam, 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 bam.
He's just going to keep firing until it clicks.
And you hear a click, click,
Yeah,
click,
and
click.
I run back into the cottage. Is everybody okay? Shotgun ready, looking around, see David and Amara. And they head into the kitchen.
Yes, David staggers to his feet and crosses the distance between him and Amara.
Yes, Amara's hand would still be trying to pull the trigger.
Yep.
She would walk over, guide your hand down. He's okay. He's okay now. He's done. He did bravest thing I have seen. And it's through 2 wars.
It's not brave. It's stupid and selfish and short-sighted is what happened. That's what Murph did. Selfish prick.
Be that as it may, he did save our lives, worthy though they might be.
The time he had already drawn the symbol on his head, the creature was already focused on him.
There was nothing any of us could have done after that.
Now, David, are you okay from the creature hitting you?
And he just sort of sags slightly.
I don't know
Waves
this type
waves
injury.
him off.
David, you can feel the area where this tendril struck you. It hurts. It does hurt. Perhaps you look down through your shirt. You remember the burn marks I described on the exterior of the building?
Mm-hmm.
You see a kind of black little, almost looks like a sunburst, has been seemingly burned into your chest. Kind of looks like a black sun.
Oh, this is where we transition into the Octon Cthulhu campaign. We go back in time.
Forward.
Oh, I guess we're forward in time. Yeah, you're right.
You know, this is probably going to give me lung cancer. That's what it's going to do. That'd be fit.
If you live that
Slow,
long.
painful death.
Shut up, David. Shut up. I don't want to hear another word until we are out of here.
What the hell happened here? They murdered that man. Why?
How
What
did he win? I think the frozen man was supposed to be the sacrifice to put it back in the tube, put it back in the box.
Amara has stormed out and gotten into the car.
Yeah, we better go. I don't want to walk.
David will just sort of follow dutifully behind him.
Storm is cleared, and though it is evening, there is a half moon in the sky. And there's a kind of almost beauty. You see a bunch of stars out. You're north of the major city where that kind of light pollution blots out stars, but you can see a bunch of beautiful shining stars in the sky. It is actually very quiet. It's at night. You can hear a bit of wildlife via whoo-hoo, owl. But you all get into the car, and where do you head to? What direction are you?
I have to get my truck.
Heading back to the diner.
You arrive back at the diner, where Winifred is still sobbing over her dead husband. Jake is by her. Amelia and Mary are still have actually moved out in the front. They take note of all you approaching. Do you actually go inside, converse with them, or do you simply grab your vehicles and leave?
Amara would go inside.
And quick question. There, the box, the tube that the
Yeah, what do you guys
creature
do with
went
that?
into,
Yeah,
we left that in the cottage, or did we take it with us?
you tell me.
Oh, David certainly would have taken that with him.
Okay.
Go with you.
Quite
Okay.
handling it quite carefully.
You get back inside Amara. As soon as you walk in, Mary, the young girl, the daughter of Sam, she asks, "What's happened? Where's my father? What the hell was that thing?"
All you need to know, and she's addressing like the room at this point. All you need to know is that you are now safe. The thing will not return. And this is all due to a very dear friend of mine named Duncan Murphy.
Detective.
God help you all if you forget or mistreat his memory in any way. If you do not honor him every day of your lives, I'll come back here and finish you myself.
Wide-eyed, silent stares from everyone.
I hope you spend your life wisely. And she would just turn on her heel and exit, clang door.
You're able to grab your truck, Anton. Amara, you're in your car. I'd like to have a final scene, though, with everyone just outside of their vehicles. I want to know, where's everyone planning to head?
I think David would actually approach Anton. Could you give me a ride back to Arkham? I assume that's where you're heading.
Yeah, that I can do, but Amara, I don't know if she can drive her car. Well, she drove it back down, so her arm's back to normal again.
Mostly.
I don't know about that.
Partially. Just
With-
feeling in a finger.
She's driving with some difficulty, but it's getting it done.
I can take you back in. Amara, you follow me, I follow you to make sure that you get back to Arkham or Boston, okay?
I'll be fine.
I feel better if I help make sure after everything that's going on. After all this, we don't want you dying in car accidents, no?
Anton, I'll be fine.
You should know, Amara, that I won't forget either what your friend did for us. Anyone that I help in my career, it will be because of him. Every life that's improved, every life that's saved will be due to him, and I won't forget.
I'll hold you to that. I mean, she'll quietly get back into the Oldsmobile and just drive off, peel off, actually. She'll faster than probably the weather dictates.
Still wet. The roads are still slick. But
Yeah.
Are you heading towards Arkham? Back to Boston?
I am heading back to Boston because I imagine I'm going to have some very uncomfortable conversations with Duncan's next of kin.
Okay. David and Anton are heading back to Arkham?
Yeah, I have to take David back.
Amara peels off, heading back towards Boston. The car fishtails slightly, but she manages to maintain control. It'd be real funny if it made you make a drive check, but I'm not going to. He watches Anton and a very shaken David get into his truck and head south. And our final scene, today's session of Memento Mori, is of Amelia Webb, the woman that you found just along the roadside, of her stepping out of the diner, looking up at the night sky, and grabbing onto the little symbol she had, looking at it, looking up at the night sky, and a very sinister smile crossing her face. That is where we'll end today's session, my friends.
I knew it.
Very, very interesting. Very, I did not expect Duncan to sacrifice himself. That was
Yeah,
It
ballsy,
wasn't
man.
the whole like the actual plan, but
Ballsy.
when David burst out, it became the plan.
That was ballsy,
So.
man. That was good. Well, great job, everybody. Really good to be back with you all. A little bit about housekeeping. I would like to ask the group a question, if I may. And I'm going to keep this on stream because I want the viewers to know what our plan is. Would you guys like to continue with these characters or pick up with a new cast of characters next week? I'm not sure if these characters are too shaken to go on, but it's up to you guys how they would like to proceed. We could do a brand new cast. I've thought of the Memento Mori as a kind of maybe a Monster of the Week thing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the same cast. It's the same cast of players, but potentially we could bring in a brand new group of investigators. But if we don't have an answer about that now, we can discuss it. But if you guys have some opinions on that, I mean, obviously Duncan would bring in, well, not Duncan. I'll tell you that much. He's dead. Yeah.
Maybe the return of Sir Reginald Bakery,
Yeah. What a twist. We move over to
the
England.
fourth, his son. No,
Third.
I would be happy to kind of treat this as like an anthology series where we do have rotating casts, right? But I want to reserve the right to come back to these people.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that, we couldn't have Amara return and we have 3 new characters. We could say, because I'm curious, would David even want to continue to pursue this? Is my question.
I don't think so. Actually, I was
I
going to
don't
speak
think
to
so
you
either.
afterwards
Yeah.
about retiring the character and
Yeah.
maybe having him as a bit of a financier, considering his vast wealth for future groups.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
He
that's
wants
pretty
to
good.
finance investigations, but he himself knows that he is borderline going to lose his entire mind if he continues to look into it himself. And I think having him become this kind of, not shadowy per se, but this kind of background financier of those investigating this sort of thing, I think could be interesting for sure. What about Anton?
I like the character.
You want to keep him?
Yeah, I'd love to keep him, but if we need to bounce to other ones or whatever,
If
I
I
can do
may
that as
offer a
well.
suggestion, I'm thinking we would pick up 6 months to a year after these events. I'm going to throw an idea out there that maybe David forms, he doesn't want to do it himself, but maybe he forms a kind of society, maybe an investigative society, knowing that these horrors exist, and starts recruiting people to do it. He becomes this kind of financier figurehead of an organization, and then we can do this kind of episodic anthology, as Professor Hex had said, sort of thing with different members of this organization. It could kind of be a founding. This could kind of be our backstory to the founding of this organization. Just an idea I had right now. Don't know if that sparks any interest for folks, but I think it could work really well for our quote-unquote anthology series that I'm thinking we'll run. And we may eventually get into the Masks of Narlotep at some point, but I'm liking doing these kind of, like I said, Monsters of the Week. It feels like we can explore, investigate, have these cool scenes, these epic sacrifices from Duncan, which was I was completely shocked.
Always from Symbol.
Yeah, always from Symbol.
That was not the
character.
plan. The plan originally
Brilliant.
was to go to the end, try and get out by when the window in the room, something like that. But the second David burst, I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore.
Yep. It's good. It's good. I like that. So yeah, folks would like to bring new characters. We'll talk about that offline, but I think the anthology this style seems to work for everybody. I'm enjoying the system. I'm enjoying the setting. I'm feeling compelled by it as long as you continue to be as well. I'd say let's keep going. But we'll talk about some new characters offline. But to our viewers, excuse me, as I always say at the end of every session, it's been like 2 weeks. Any final thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns from the players before we wrap up today's episode?
Do we roll for improvements on these characters?
Yeah.
If we do,
Absolutely.
put them off to the side, or
Yep, and then you just save these characters for a later date. Except for Duncan. Duncan's dead.
Duncan's dead.
Yep, he gets nothing.
well, we could come back and bring him back as a zombie or something later once we
that'd be
learn
amazing.
how.
But his head has been turned
Don't
to
dust.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
And
That's fair. Hilarious.
just find somebody else's head.
I have no improvements to make because I failed every roll I attempt.
That's fair.
Ugh.
But as I always say at the end of every session, thank you so much to the players for playing. Without you guys, I can't do this. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you to the viewers for viewing. It's always fun to have folks watch, and happy gaming, everybody. You'll catch these fine folks with some potential new characters. The potential new characters next week for another episode of Call of Cthulhu Memento Mori, where we'll be doing a brand new adventure from a recently founded investigative organization by one filthy rich David Knox. But with that being said, be well, be safe. We'll catch you guys next week. Good night. All right, there we go. Okay, looks good.